Saudi Arabia, Ukraine expressed its readiness to accept the U.S. proposal to introduce a 30-day temporary ceasefire with Russia. Voting continued in Greenland's parliamentary elections as Icelanders head to polls on Tuesday amid ongoing U.S. threats. China's National Committee of the Communist Party called on its members to boost the Asian nation's modernization. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. Ukraine expressed its readiness to accept the U.S. proposal to introduce a 30-day temporary ceasefire with Russia that can be extended by mutual agreement of the parties to the conflict. This was announced in a statement issued following Tuesday's meeting between Kiev and Washington delegations in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. According to the final document drawn up after more than 8 hours of negotiations, Washington was also ready to immediately lift the pause in intelligence sharing and resume security assistance to Ukraine. According to the document, the delegations also agreed to appoint their negotiating teams and immediately start talks to achieve a lasting peace in the conflict. In this regard, while Washington pledged to discuss these proposals with representatives of Russia, the Ukrainian side reiterated that European countries should be involved in the process. At the end of the U.S.-Ukraine meeting, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio summarized the main points of the agreement and shed light on further details of the talks.
On the first point, your question is yes, that's the offer. The offer is to stop the shooting. The goal here is the only way out to end this war is to negotiate out of it. There's no military solution to this war. The solution to this war and the way to end it and to achieve the president's objective of peace is to negotiate. But before you can negotiate, you have to stop shooting at each other. And that's what the president has wanted to see, and that's the commitment we got today from the Ukrainian side, their willingness to do that. Obviously now that'll be delivered to the Russians. It'll be delivered to them directly through multiple channels, meaning not only will they obviously see it, but it'll be communicated to them through our diplomatic channels, through conversations.
In this context, U.S. President Donald Trump offered statements to the press on the temporary ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah. I want to look, that's the other, it takes two to tango, as they say, right? So hopefully he'll also agree, and I really think that would be 75% of the way. The rest is getting it documented and, negotiating land positions, etc.
So you'll talk to him this week?
I think so, yeah.
In other news, on Tuesday, the president of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić, denounced that a coup d'etat is underway in the country. He assured that violent factors are trying to forcibly form a transitional government. He explained that an executive without elections, besides violating Articles 308 and 309 of the Constitution, would be the end of prosperous, modern and flourishing Serbia. This Monday night, a group of students blocked the headquarters of the national radio and television in Belgrade, the capital of the country. It is preamble of the demonstrations that they are calling for next March 15th, when they will try to take more institutions by force. The sponsors claim that they are protesting the lack of justice for 15 people who died in the collapse of a train station. The government warns that the violent ones will be arrested and subjected to long prison sentences. And voting continued in Greenland's parliamentary elections as islanders head to the polls on Tuesday amid ongoing U.S. threats. With an expert estimated voter turnout of 70 to 75%, Greenlanders will elect 31 members to their parliament among the 6 running parties. In this regard, according to previous polls, main candidates belong to the sitting Social Democratic Siumut Party, the left-wing Inuit Ataqatigiit, pro-independence Nalarak, and center-right Democratic and the liberal-conservative Atasut. The island's Prime Minister, Mute Biegede, called early parliamentary elections amid threats by U.S. President Donald Trump of annexing the territory and turn it into a strategic area aiming to seize control of their mineral-rich homeland.
We're not for sale, and someone should make it more clearly to Donald Trump that he has to stop playing.
I hope the Greenlandic people will vote with their senses today and not by greed. And they will not be seduced by greed. And I don't want to mention his name.
In 2019, during his first term, Donald Trump suggested buying Greenland, and many people thought it was a joke. Now, with his return to the White House, his renewed interest in the island has generated tension globally. Let's take a look at some details.
People initially thought U.S. President Donald Trump was joking when he first suggested buying Greenland in 2019, but it's now becoming clear that he wasn't. Trump has doubled down on his interest in Greenland since returning to the White House in January as part of his controversial United States first foreign policy platform. This is the same policy that includes demanding that Ukraine hand over mineral rights in exchange for continued military aid, threatening to take control of the Panama Canal, and suggesting that Canada should become the 51st U.S. state. But what is it about this island that makes Trump so interested? Greenland remains at the center of the debate over global trade and security, and Trump wants to ensure that the U.S. controls this mineral-rich country, which guards the Arctic and the North Atlantic approaches to North America. As climate change continues to thin the Arctic ice and is likely to create a northwestward passage for international trade, this has reignited competition with several countries for access to the region's mineral resources. Also, because of where Greenland is, just off the northeastern coast of Canada, with more than two-thirds of its territory lying within the Arctic Circle, it has been crucial to the defense of North America since World War II. In Greenland, there are large deposits of important rare earth minerals on the island that are needed to make everything from computers and smartphones to batteries, solar, and wind technologies that will power the transition away from fossil fuels. The U.S. Geological Survey has also identified potential offshore deposits of oil and natural gas. Greenland is the world's largest island, 80% of which lies above the Arctic Circle. And it's home to about 56,000 mostly Inuit people who until now have been largely ignored by the rest of the world. At the moment, Greenland is a self-governing territory of Denmark, a longtime U.S. ally that has made it clear it rejects Trump's plans to buy the country. Denmark has also recognized Greenland's right to independence at a time of its choosing.
To further enhance our national security,
it is clear the hegemonic character of this second term of Trump, where even many of his allied countries are being affected by decisions that affect their economies, and that point to the United States as the main actor in this process, looking only for its own benefit at any cost.
the Panama Canal was built by Americans for Americans, not for others.
We have now our first short break coming up. First, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Argentina, over 70% of the Bahia Blanca population was affected by rains and floods, which led the country to declare a weather emergency. In this context, the mayor of the city of Bahia Blanca, Federico Subieles, reported that the number of evacuees has decreased to 523 people and that the water levels remain low. Subieles also detailed that the city has recovered 70% of the electricity supply, while efforts are progressing to recover the totality of the service. They also reported the distribution of 100 tons of food and other supplies, while they are in the process of distributing more aid. Argentine lawmakers filed on Monday a criminal complaint against President Javier Milei for the signing on an emergency decree of agreement with the International Monetary Fund. The head of state disclosed the decree aimed at canceling non-transferable treasury bills held by the central bank, a measure with which he intends to avoid passing through Congress anything that implies increasing the foreign debt. With only 4 agreements, the DNU grants the Office of Economy the power to apply the necessary instruments to comply with the fund's requirements. In this context, analysts and experts have qualified the document as a nonsense that does not withstand with the slightest analysis. And in Chile, at least 6 people died and dozens were injured after the collision of 4 buses in the Coquimbo region. According to local authorities, the accident took place after one of the units suffered mechanical failures on Route 5 North, causing 2 to overturn. 2 other buses stopped to render aid, but minutes later a 4th bus, apparently speeding and not respecting the warning signs, caused a chain collision. The authorities said that the more than 40 injured were taken to hospitals in the cities of Coquimbo and La Serena, while work was being done to clear the road. Local authorities in Ecuador denounced that the government of Daniel Noboa has not paid the pending finance debts to provinces affected by floods. According to the consortium of decentralized autonomous provincial governments of the nation, over 60% of the population of the country has pending payments. The institution unveiled the debt amounts to more than $500 million, most of which corresponds to territories affected by torrential rains, such as Manabí and Guayas. Likewise, the institution assured that Noboa's government is turning its back to citizens because it does not have resources to assist those affected. The Alliance of People United for Life of Panama announced on Monday a plan of action in the face of the threats from the United States and in rejection of the proposed reforms to the Social Security Fund. The activities begin with picketing outside the National Assembly, as well as leafleting and marches in different parts of the country. The unionist organization assured that Panama is going through very complex times and it is necessary to be united to face the ambitions of the President of the United States, Donald Trump. They also added that it is necessary to suspend the project of reforms to the social fund, as well as the claims of the Rio Indio Dam, the reopening of the mine, and the increase in the subway fare. And during a televised interview, Ambassador of Barbados to CARICOM, David Commission, condemned the Donald Trump's administration's ongoing efforts to subvert Cuba's medical brigades by threatening government officials and family members of these professionals.
A lot of our CARICOM countries actually depend on these Cuban medical personnel to save lives. Many of them are specialist doctors and that they don't have in their countries. Barbados, we don't depend as much as some others, but we definitely needed them during COVID. And we had something like well over 200 medical personnel come here to help us. The response of the Prime Minister's...
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, during his program Con Maduro Más, supported the denunciation made by the Executive Vice President teleSUR Rodriguez on Monday against ExxonMobil. Evidence of the payment of lobbying by the transnational ExxonMobil, which operates illegally on unlimited waters in favor of the government of Guyana, was produced so that the U.S. government would suspend the operating license of the oil company Chevron in Venezuela. The head of state also revealed that these documents have arrived with sufficient material, evidence, and elements. He recalled that Chevron has more than a century of oil operations in Venezuela, and this company has shown that it wants to invest and has done so and has reached a good level of growth together with the Venezuelan state in accordance with the laws and the Bolivarian constitution. ExxonMobil is right at the center of this operation of vengeance against the people of Venezuela, an operation also of persecution and to exterminate the U.S. company Chevron. So it is a fight that they have over there in the States, and there are a lot of components in this conspiracy against Venezuela, against the economy, against the limited territorial sea, and specifically against the very productive investment that Chevron has today in Venezuela. I've said this before. Chevron has more than 100 years in Venezuela. They wanted to invest, and they began to invest and to grow, and they have reached a great level of development and growth alongside the Venezuelan state. You understand? According to the law, according to the constitution, now they shot themselves on the foot by delivering this hit, Chevron, with the objective of doing harm to us. But I can tell you right now, they are not doing any harm to us because Venezuela is going to continue moving forward, and this year we're going to grow in all aspects of the country. We now have a second short break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special broadcastings, and live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, we'll be right back. Welcome back. A shell explosion in the pediatric ward of a hospital in South Kivu, east of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, killed 5 people on Sunday. A local radio station reported that several people, including patients and medical personnel, were seriously injured, as preliminary reports attribute the incident to the actions of M23 rebels currently occupying the capital of South Kivu and Bukavu. In the aftermath, the hospital has reportedly resumed its activities, with medical authorities calling for an immediate recovery of the affected area, which requires urgent reconstruction. The United Nations reacted to the Israeli regime's decision to limit electricity supply to Gaza, a move that has sparked international concern. The electricity cuts, which have lasted for 9 consecutive days, are having devastating consequences for the Gazan population, which already lives in extreme conditions. The UN emphasizes that the blockade should not be used as a weapon against the Palestinian people. UNRWA commissioner warned in a press conference in Geneva about the risk of a severe famine crisis. He also strongly criticized the use of humanitarian aid as a political tool. According to the UN, the lack of electricity in cities like Deir al-Balah, Han Yunis, and Rafah not only affects the energy supply but also the healthcare and education systems, increasing the risk of a total collapse in these areas.
Intentions. The Secretary General is very concerned about Israel's decision to limit electricity supply going into Gaza. This latest decision will substantially reduce the availability of drinking water in the Gaza Strip. Starting today, the facility is set to run on backup generators, which will reduce the water production capacity. Restoring this connection is vital for tens of thousands of families and children. Our colleagues at the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us that all crossings into Gaza have been closed for the entry of cargo for 9 consecutive days now. OCHA tells us that the Karim Shalom crossing also remained closed for the collection of cargo for the 9th straight day, which is severely impacting the delivery of humanitarian assistance across the Gaza Strip. We and our partners warn that fuel shortages are affecting aid operations. We're currently examining how to prioritize the remaining stock. Last week in Khan Yunis and Deir al-Balah, 6 bakeries shut down due to the lack of cooking gas, and as of yesterday, 19 bakeries supported by the World Food Program are still operating and trying to maximize their capacity to bridge the gaps. Health expanded maternity service.
In other news, former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte has been arrested following an international criminal court warrant for his so-called war on drugs. The former leader is accused by ICC prosecutors of crimes against humanity over his anti-drugs crackdowns from 2016 to 2022, in which as many as 30,000 people were killed, according to local non-governmental organizations. Most of the victims were men in poor urban areas who were gunned down in the streets. The president's office said Duterte was arrested on Tuesday morning at Manila Airport after flying back from Hong Kong. The arrest brings solace to the relatives of victims, which had expressed concern that Duterte would not be prosecuted for the crimes. And China's National Committee of the Communist Party urged its members to boost the Asian nation's modernization. With the attendance of President Xi Jinping and other authorities, the closing ceremony of the highest political advisory body was presided over by the chairman of this National Committee, Wang Hunin, who unveiled its political strength and democratic vitality. Wang reaffirmed that the organization should better fulfill its function to expand the capacity of political consultation, to strengthen the determination and confidence for the creation of a new era. Finally, the committee urged the advisors to keep united, pushing forward the national revitalization and modernization of the Asian giant. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.